All right.
Hey, my name is Nick Marinelli.
I'm Stephen Maklari.
We did an independent study. We made an Android game. We decided to go with a Tetris-based game. We have our own variation of the game called Pictris, where you build a picture out of Tetris pieces. We have multiplayer Battle Tetris, where you can play against another person on another phone or a tablet. And then we have normal Tetris.
And you did this as part of...
An independent study.
Okay.
Our game goes on a phone or a tablet that runs the Android operating system, and it works with any size screen, any model phone. It resizes appropriately for anything, pretty much. It runs over network. It's more stable over Wi-Fi, but it will work over just
Okay. Well,
cell service.
why don't you show me the version both on the phone and on the tablet? And for the most part, I'm going to film on the tablet since it's larger.
All right, this is the version on the phone. Game select high score about an exit. Game select gives you a select screen with our Pictris game, Battle Tetris, and Tetris. And this is the Pictris game. The Pictris game, green means you're closer, red means you're farther away.
So what's the objective of the game?
The Pictris game, the objective is to place the pieces in the correct spot and build the picture. And at the your score decays over time. You start with 100,000 points, and over time it starts to decay. The faster you do it, the more points you end up with. And if you put the piece down in the wrong spot, as you can see, it'll just give you the same piece back. That's because if you put one piece down in the wrong spot, it could screw up the entire board. So we don't want to make you lose all those points.
And the way it's written, it'll work with any picture that you want to use.
It resizes the picture for you. All right, and I'll let him show it on the tablet.
Pictures, Battle Tetris, and Tetris. Were you showing Pictures?
Yeah, I was just showing pictures. Or do you want to do Tetris? Or?
Actually, why don't you move over a little because there's a lot of glare. You can move out of the light. Yeah, there we go. That's better.
And Tetris is just a normal Tetris game. You just play with the buttons on the bottom. You can rotate the piece, move it, drop it a single line. Your score is in the upper right-hand corner, and when you clear a line, your score goes up. You get 1,000 points for a normal line, and an extra 1,000 when you get a Tetris.
And Tetris is also like a survival mode. It goes until you lose.
And then if you want to quit, you just press the back button on any phone, and then it brings you back to the main menu. You can see the high scores for Battle Tetris, but I'll show the game first. If you want to connect to Battle Tetris.
Okay.
You
So
get,
Battle Tetris is where you play another user over the internet.
Yep.
Find opponent.
So the find opponent is the quickest way.
Okay,
Just
so
connects
you
to a
guys are playing
user.
each other?
Yep.
Let's reorient here because actually I think I'm getting a lot of glare. All right, we're back.
All right.
Find opponent just lets you play the quickest person. It just finds a random connection and connects you. Then you have 3 minutes to score as many points as possible.
So on both the phone and the tablet, right, you can see that there are two. You have the split screen. One
Yeah,
for
so
your.
This would be your opponent is always on the right side of the screen. You're always on the left.
Mm-hmm. So what were the main challenges in writing this program?
The server was a big challenge for Battle Tetris, getting it running and stable. We actually still have a few problems with it, but for the most part it's stable. We were originally using a pure TCP connection, and we ended up using UDP for sending of the data to the board, and like scores and username and whatnot we would send over TCP connection.
And the main difference between TCP and UCP?
UDP doesn't have to arrive at its destination. TCP does. So if there's any backup on the server for some reason, if you time out or you lose connection, what's called the write buffer on the server side won't build up and crash the server. It'll just drop all the UDP packets that aren't able to arrive at the other client.
Now, what was the name of the graphics library you used for the for the Android?
It's called libgdx. It's an open source library for Android. We also use for the server itself, we used an open source library called CryoNet. Oops, you paused it. That's actually what happens if you pause the game. This is the user. We have random usernames right now just because we actually had a little bit of trouble getting the keyboard to work. If you have custom keyboards, it doesn't work really well, and it actually wouldn't work on my phone. They wouldn't backspace for some reason. So we just went with random names for now, to get it done in time.
Yeah.
And
That's assigned when you connect to the server for the first time.
yeah,
It's assigned to your phone.
And one of the reasons why you went with that open source library, as I recall, is because each phone has a different variation on the display.
Yeah, and the library will resize according to the display. When a lot of phones, like, they'll be off by like another inch or like a half an inch, and like all phones are slightly different. So to have it resized for every phone is extremely complicated without the library. It also allows you to debug on the computer instead of always having to put it on your phone, which speeds things up a lot.
the libgdx library allows you to run on your phone, any Android device. You can actually compile it for HTML5 as well as OS X, Apple operating system. So it's really useful for debugging. Be able to do it on the computer.
Okay. So what are your follow-on plans for your program? Actually, why don't you guys get together there, talk? There you go.
We planned on working on it a little bit over the summer and maybe releasing it on the Android market if we get like a keyboard working and everything and getting like a stable server going.
Yeah.
If we can't get the server as stable as we would like, we might remove the Battle Tetris part and then just release the Pictris game. But we do want to release it with the multiplayer because then we think it's a good feature.
Have you thought about renting server space on something like GoDaddy or something? One of those services?
It's a possibility.
Yeah, it's a possibility. It
Yeah.
depends. And also using a Facebook login and stuff like a lot of games nowadays use to connect through that. It might be more stable with logins. So we have to look into it.
So what were the main things you learned from this project? I know there were quite a few.
Retaught myself Java. I haven't done Java in a long time, but
Had to learn how to use Eclipse.
Yeah,
Since
how to
we
use
use
Eclipse.
BlueJ a lot.
it's obviously programming for Android in general.
And as I recall, the buttons were actually quite a challenge to do.
Yeah, we actually had to remake the button class.
The button, like in the libgdx library, the way the buttons work, it's a lot more challenging than you'd actually expect. You would think it would be like easy since it's built in, but it was more of a pain than it was worth, and we actually ended up writing our own button class to just get it done quicker.
Yeah.
And how many source lines of code is this project approximately?
Probably close to 1,000.
It's probably more than that.
Probably more than 1,000 with the server.
Probably a lot more. I would actually say probably around 5,000. It's a,
Yeah, I mean, usually a project of this kind of complexity is going to be at least 3,000.
yeah,
So.
it's up there.
It's up there, especially with it having code for the computer and HTML and then also Android. It kind of bloats it a little bit.
All right, anything else you'd like to add? No? Okay. All right, well, hey, thanks for your time, and hopefully we'll get this all edited and up on the website, and you'll inspire future students to do independent study. All right, very good.